So what happens when the most powerful man in the world decides to clean house? Well, not just any house, the entire Department of Justice. Well, earlier today, I watched the mainstream media squirm in the White House press room as the announcement came down. All 93 Biden-appointed prosecutors fired, gone, just like that. But here's what nobody's talking about: the timing. Why now? Why all at once? The same day that Trump announces reciprocal tariffs that have China scrambling, the same day the DOGE committee exposes billions in waste. Oh, and did anyone notice who's being appointed to replace them? The pieces are all falling into place, and the picture is stunning. And as President Trump reshapes American trade policy with these new tariffs, one thing is becoming crystal clear: the global financial system is about to undergo a massive shift. China's reaction, well, they're buying gold, lots of it, and they're not alone. The BRICS nations are stockpiling precious metals at an unprecedented rate. Why? Because they know what's coming. That's why I trust Noble Gold. They understand that gold isn't just an investment, it is protection against global uncertainty. Visit Next News Gold today, and with a qualified purchase, nextnewsgold.com, that's the website. With a qualified purchase, you will receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins absolutely free. The number on the screen, 877-646-5347. And we thank Noble Gold Investments for their sponsorship. Okay, lots to get into. As you may know, this is what happened. We have the press credentials that we just received at the White House. An exciting day for us at the Next News Network. But equally as exciting, Anna Paulina Luna has just released a formal video detailing the new task force. Remember this? This is the task force that's supposed to be declassifying all of the secret records. JFK, 9/11, Martin Luther King, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, Epstein client list, all of these things. So she's got it right now. Let's check this out, what she just put out.
Client list and the task force on the declassification of federal secrets has been organized under the House Oversight Committee and represents a historic step towards transparency and delivering answers to the American people. President Trump has already taken steps to deliver to the American people information that for far too long has been kept under the federal government's lock and key through classification. Under Executive Order 14176, President Trump has directed the federal government to prepare reports regarding the declassification of records regarding the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. The task force will also examine agencies' knowledge and possession of documents regarding other areas of significant public interest, including UAPs, the origins of COVID-19, the Epstein client list, and details surrounding the death of Osama bin Laden in Operation Neptune Spear. Our first hearing is March and will focus on the assassination of President Kennedy. We have already engaged with relevant agencies to provide briefings this month regarding the universe of documents connected to these areas of interest. Upon receiving these briefings, we'll move immediately to review documents and, if necessary, earmark them for release to the American people. The task force will travel as necessary to conduct research and meet with relevant witnesses and experts who may also be called to speak in a public setting. We will work closely with the committee to provide transparency through hearings, reports, and the release of documents. It's important to note that we don't have documents yet, and we also don't hold declassification authority. The task force seeks to operate with coordination with the administration to ensure that the American people receive the documents needed to answer questions that we have been all asking for far too long. We will regain the trust of the American people through transparency.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Oh, man. But she said something there that kind of caught my attention, that they're going to earmark certain things. Why would you earmark it? Just give it all to us, right? That's what the American people want. They want the truth. And speaking of trying to understand things, we had this that happened today at the joint press conference with the Prime Minister of India. This was kind of a funny moment.
Go louder.
Raising anti-India voice, calling about separation terrorism activities in India. Do you think that should continue here in the US as well?
You're going to have to go louder.
Mr. President, people in India would be welcoming your decision to extradite Tahabur Rana to...
I can't understand a word he's saying.
May I, sir? May I? May I, sir?
Go ahead, back there.
Yeah, can't understand a word he's saying. Let's just hope that it was related to the microphone problems. Okay, so as you know, I was there at the White House today, and this is a special message that I recorded from the podium inside the White House press room just for you.
Guys, all right, here we are inside the White House press room. It is pretty exciting, to say the least, that we're actually here. 20 years of hard work, and your guys' dedication to our reporting has made it all possible. And it's just exciting to see everybody in the room. This is what this one looks like. There we go. So I'm excited. I know you guys are too. So there will be more.
There will be more indeed. This story is not over yet. And we've got this. The senior counselor for trade and manufacturing, Peter Navarro, sets the record straight on President Trump's tariffs. You know, there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. Well, the difference between the two is one is kind of like, you know, an accident and one is intentional. But of course, we're talking about CNN here. And CNN, you know, does a lot of intentional disinformation. Speaking of CNN, I did run into Caitlin Collins in the White House press room. She kind of walked past me a couple times, and I turned around and she was gone. She disappeared behind some door. I kind of tried looking for her, but you know, she was gone like a ghost. I was going to get a selfie with her and maybe post it and have some fun with it, but unfortunately that did not happen. But maybe there will be other opportunities. So let's see what happened with Peter Navarro when he appeared on CNN today.
As we learned from the historic China tariffs, the steel and aluminum tariffs, the tariffs on dishwashers and all of that, is we didn't get any inflation at all. We got price stability, but more importantly, we got our jobs back, and life was good in America. There's a long process I can go through and explain why inflation really won't be a big problem, if a problem at all. And it starts with things like when these big exporting countries face a higher tariff, they have to sell to us. So what's the first thing they do, Jake, is they lower their prices. So that takes a bite out of any inflation. Then they mess around with their currencies. They manipulate them, or as the trade deficit goes down, the currency goes down. That gives us more purchasing power. That's another bite. Supply chains adjust. And equally important, Jake, for workers in America, as we get more investment here because of the tariffs, we got $15 billion when we put the steel tariffs in last time. Productivity goes up.
But I'm not the one who
goes up, wages go up, and that means more purchasing power. Right. We learned from the historic China.
Turd tapper there, like, but wait, tariffs bad, right? Oh yeah, here's another picture. Moments after I got into the press room, and we are in. Here's more from. This is my first official report from the White House press room today.
White House press room. All right, we are now inside the White House press room. Prime Minister Modi has just arrived, and we didn't see President Trump out there to greet him personally, but the anticipation for their meeting is only growing. Despite the absence, the arrival today's schedule includes a highly anticipated press conference and a dinner. We expect President Trump and the Prime Minister of India to showcase their strong bilateral relationship. The press conference is set to be a platform where both leaders can focus on their national interests and lay out a vision for the future, U.S.-India ties as well. America First policies clearly going to be taking center stage. Now, this could lead to more announcements of new deals with respect to the president's interests putting forward while fostering a mutually beneficial partnership with India. Now, the dinner tonight, of course, not just about diplomacy, but it is about a celebration of the personal and strategic bond between Trump and Modi. It's a chance for both leaders to strengthen their rapport, which has been pivotal in advancing U.S.-India relations to new heights under Trump's leadership. We're only just a little more than 3 weeks into this new administration, and we are seeing radical things happening at breakneck speed. So this is a new era for this country as we're witnessing it in real time right here in the White House press room. So stay tuned as we cover this significant event, bringing you insights into how the president is going to execute his strategies with the Prime Minister of India and see how this continues to shape their global alliances. So stay tuned. We'll have more later.
There it is. There, back in the suit, guys. What do you think? I'm back in the suit, baby. Okay, we've got some more rapid response. 47 White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller had this to say about President Trump in saving thousands of lives already.
Have been blocked. President Trump has already saved thousands of lives just by the people he's kept out of the country these last 3 weeks. Do you have any idea how many criminals, how many potential terrorists, how many security threats have been blocked and denied and prevented and deterred from even trying to enter the country? A 95% reduction in illegal crossings. There are mothers all over this country who will sleep safely tonight because of what Donald Trump has done. That is what the American people voted for, not the chaos and bloodshed of Gavin Newsom and Kathy Hochul and all of these blue state governors and blue state mayors who have forced their people to live in violence and misery. President Trump.
Well, we know what's happening in New York now. The indictments are coming down. The investigations are beginning. And here we have more from the Rapid Response Channel. This is the official White House channel. President Trump is operating at a next level right now, something that I just mentioned to you from the press room.
National prayer breakfast in the Gulf. President Trump, it was fantastic being a governor underneath him in my first term and back in the first Trump administration. But he's operating at a next level right now. I mean, the first time around, he was courageous. This time, he's fearless. The ideas he has that he's driving forward on cutting waste and spending, being with them, whether it's at a national prayer breakfast, renaming the Gulf of America, or negotiating with the Prime Minister of Japan about an 800-mile natural gas pipeline in Alaska. Everything he's doing is 180 degrees different from the Biden administration, and he's delivering on all the promises, and that's fantastic. And one of those promises was he was going to make government more efficient. And I'm a complete supporter of this. When I became governor of North Dakota, we cut 27% out of the general fund. I know it can be done. This example you just talked about at Iron Mountain is we've got to give people that work in government the tools. The technology is so outdated that we're asking people to do paperwork instead of computer work.
Yeah, he's talking about that mine where it takes hours to go and descend into the mine so they can file paperwork for retirements in government. And it's all changing thanks to President Trump and his initiatives. Here is the press secretary. I did not have an opportunity to meet her today, but she did have these remarks with News Nation about inflation as we're only 25 days into this presidency.
The Biden. Well, first of all, let me say that the inflation report released yesterday was not a surprise. However, it does prove that the Biden administration left us with a mess. Inflation, this was the last inflation report from the Biden White House. And it shows that it's an indictment on their mismanagement of that crisis that was ongoing for the past 4 years. And so there's a lot of work to be done, but President Trump and our entire team are committed to doing it. And he already has taken significant steps to lower costs for American families. Number one, he signed an executive order to launch a massive deregulatory campaign. We know more regulation leads to higher inflation. President Trump also declared a national energy emergency. We are going to drill, baby, drill, just as he promised on the campaign trail and also committed to during his first term, which we know led to record low inflation. The president is also committed to historic tax cuts, which will ultimately put more money back into the pockets of the American people. And so there's a lot of work that's going on across the entire administration to put more money back in Americans' pockets and to drive down prices. Well, first of all,
yes, I don't believe when they start complaining on the mainstream press about, the price of eggs, look what President Trump did. And then they fail to mention that Joe Biden ordered the destruction of millions of chickens across America. Here we have more from President Trump's new press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. about President Trump and how he loves New York City and what's going to happen next.
This administration, President Trump loves New York. It's his home state. He helped build the New York City skyline as it exists today before he decided to run for president. And he's taking a serious action across this administration to make New York great again. And it's so sad to see what has happened to New York City, which has once the envy of the world and has now turned into a dumping ground for illegal immigrants from all over the world. And this administration is no longer going to allow that to happen. This lawsuit, this very strong lawsuit by Attorney General Pam Bondi, is great for the people of New York, for law-abiding citizens, but most importantly for law enforcement, because the 2019 radical law barred federal law enforcement from communicating with state authorities on the immigration status of individuals who are committing crimes in New York City and throughout the state. And so kudos to the Attorney General for filing this lawsuit. And President Trump will continue to speak out and put pressure on Letitia James and Governor Hochul to do what's right for law-abiding New Yorkers who have been put last because of their radical policies, especially over the past 4 years with the help of the Biden-Harris administration. President
Trump's going to make New York great again. We've got this rapid response. Secretary Rubio says the America's golden age begins now. Interesting how he said not the United States, he said the Americas. Yes, North America, Central America, South America, because we are going down there. We're going to stop all of this illegal human smuggling. We're going to get the Panama Canal under control. And Rubio is, he's carrying the big stick for Donald Trump right now as Secretary of State. Here we have this from the Washington Times 10 hours ago. America's two most powerful allies in the Indo-Pacific have so far responded with low-key prudence after President Trump moved forward on his threat to impose 25% tariffs on imports of aluminum and steel products that go into effect next month. So they are just watching and waiting to see how it all unfolds. Here we have from the amused Trump effect, all 13 Canadian premiers gave up on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and are going to the White House to negotiate with the Trump administration on tariffs. This was just announced 11 hours ago.
Lawmakers, CTV News has learned that all 13 Canada's premiers, who are currently all in Washington, will be going to the White House as a group later today as they continue to make their case to try and avert a trade war between Canada and the United States. There are a couple of unprecedented things here. First of all, we've never seen all 13 premiers go to Washington at the same time at once together as a group. That's number one. Number two,
think about what he's saying there. They're basically completely circumventing Justin Trudeau because he's on the way out. He is completely powerless. So they have to take measures into their own hands. Now, of course, I was in the White House today and I didn't hear anything about the Canadian premiers being in town, going to the White House. Everyone was focused on the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi, going there. Which was pretty remarkable to witness all the pomp and circumstance for that visit. But I didn't hear anything about the Canadians, so this is interesting.
Meeting for them at the White House. We don't know if President Trump will attend. Could be the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. A lot of unknowns here, but they will be going to the White House. We know the premiers in Washington, they've been meeting with anyone they can in terms of U.S. lawmakers, lobbyists, business leaders over the last couple of days. Here's more from Doug Ford, who is the Premier of Ontario.
They don't realize how resilient Canadians are, and we take pride in being Canadian. That doesn't mean that we can't have an incredible trade relationship with our closest ally and friend. And if you talk to the American people, again, they love Canadians. Canadians love Americans. We're so interconnected on supply chains and everything else, and even on the culture, we're connected. We need to get this deal done and move forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of Canadians that want to be 51st state too. So we'll see how that unfolds. Okay, so what else do we have here? This is when the announcement came down 7 hours ago. President Trump announcing reciprocal tariffs. Now, we talked about this the other night, and this is an old law that's been dusted off the books, and President Trump is enacting it basically like, okay, you guys want to play games? Well, then we're going to do reciprocal. Tariff for tariff, tariff for tariff. So President Trump just throwing down the gauntlet, says, you guys want to play hardball? Well, guess what? We've got the biggest economy in the world. Good luck with you.
You look at what they're charging. And on trade, I have decided for purposes of fairness that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less. In other words, they charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them the exact same tax or tariff. Very simple. Nobody knows what that number is unless you go by the individual country. You can see what it is if you go to the individual country and you look at what they're charging us. In almost all cases, they're charging us vastly more than we charge them, but those days are over.
Those days are over, says President Trump. And if you think about the significance of what he just said there, you guys, anything you tariff on our goods, an equal measure. So it's gonna trigger a ripple effect throughout the global economy. Buckle up. It's exciting to watch. So, but don't believe the lies. Everyone's going to try and do the scare tactics. Oh, don't do it. But we have this. President Trump, 10 hours ago, you're fired. He's begun firing the remaining federal prosecutors that were appointed by Joe Biden. Since the Bill Clinton era, it's been routine for incoming presidents to fire the previous administration's federal prosecutors. So the Biden prosecutors, the ones that persecuted President Trump and executed all that lawfare, bye-bye, gone. Go find a new job. I'm sure they'll find another job somewhere in the private sector with their resume. So they're not going to be in that bad of shape, but at least they won't be in a position to inflict further harm against President Trump and the United States and America First agenda. Here we have another headline from Newsweek. Donald Trump fires Biden-appointed U.S. attorneys. Yes, 93 federal prosecutors that were appointed by Biden, all now in the unemployment line. Benny Johnson, 10 hours ago, also stating Trump fired all federal prosecutors appointed by Biden. You're fired. I love it. And here we have more. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett also talking tariffs. Last year, he said we mailed foreign governments $370 billion in taxes. Good God.
Bad for consumers.
Nearly all economists have said that tariffs will be bad for the American consumer. So what does the president know here on tariffs that seemingly every other economist doesn't?
That it's just false that it's necessarily bad for consumers. And a way to think about it is imagine right now, we did the estimate that last year, U.S. U.S.-based companies paid foreign governments $370 billion in taxes. Meanwhile, foreign companies paid the U.S. $57 billion in taxes. So we mailed foreign governments $370 billion in taxes, and those taxes are being paid for by U.S. citizens. And so if you think that asymmetry is something that could be addressed, could be improved upon, and if we did that, it would be good for U.S. citizens. Right? Is it good for U.S. citizens to mail $370 billion to them while they're sending $57 billion to us? And are we supposed to keep doing that because of some economic model that doesn't have the whole real world in it, says that we're better off because of inflation if we keep sending $370 billion to foreign governments? It just doesn't make sense. And so if you'd like, we could go to the blackboard and talk about the economic modeling and the elasticity of supply versus demand and all that stuff. But I usually save that for Ali Velshi.
I will happily
spare us the blackboard because we will fall asleep. We just want lower prices, so let's make it happen, can we? Okay, we've got this. This is Eric Abinante. Clay Travis gets audible gasps from the University of Chicago audience after he declares that men view Democrats as pussies. I think cucks is probably a more correct term.
For both elections, young men have not become much more conservative, at least according to Gallup, but they have become.
Look at his hands. Watch his hands. Just watch his hands. Oh my goodness.
More young men have not become much more conservative, at least according to Gallup, but they have become more Republican. So you have this interesting.
Wait, say that again. The men?
They have not identified as more conservative, but they are becoming more Republican. So from the Obama era, young men and young women were Democrats, right? For both elections, strong majorities of young men and young women voted for Barack Obama. And then you had a slow decline, right? This didn't happen in just one election. There's been a deterioration of Democratic identity among young men for over 10 years. And so
are you saying specifically they turn against Democrats?
I'm saying that they are more, yes, they are more Republican now, but not necessarily because they've shifted to the right on issues like climate change or abortion or same-sex marriage. They're still well to the left of their dads and grandfathers when it comes to that stuff. And so you have this really interesting situation where this group, again, looks on paper fairly liberal in a lot of ways. And in point of fact, you had 6 in 10 young men who are moderates vote for Trump, and more than 1 in 5 liberal young men vote for Trump, right? And so if we're going to look for explanations, we need to move beyond issues. We need to understand, like, there's something about Trump that was attractive, and then there's something about the Democratic Party, at least in its current manifestation, that was repellent.
I was really struck.
Let's just see. President Trump, alpha, businessman, billionaire, gets shit done. And on the left, they can't define a woman. They don't know which bathroom to use. And I mean, the list just goes on and on.
By you saying, especially that, even if they are more likely to identify as Republicans, they're still far more liberal than the men of generations before them. And I think that that's something that would surprise a lot of young women like myself to hear that. I was surprised.
So what is it that we're missing about, or what is it that people who are not, as Magdalene said, people who don't understand why? That's my first question. I have a second one, but go ahead.
Okay, so what I would start with is men aspire to be bigger, stronger, and faster than we are, almost universally. That's why superheroes are popular. That's why pro athletes are popular. Who is the most masculine Democrat right now in America? Mayor Pete.
Is that a gay joke?
No, Mayor Pete. No, well, no, it's just that he's not particularly masculine. Nobody's like, oh, Mayor Pete, he's a badass. Chuck Schumer. Is anybody like, hey, Chuck Schumer holding up an avocado and a beer to talk about the Super Bowl? Is anybody like that trying to grill? Is anybody like, hey, that's a dude I want to hang out with?
But Trump's like a grandpa.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Trump took a bullet in his ear and immediately stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. Every man in America and most of the women out here were impressed by that, even if the women won't admit it. She's shaking her head strong. And second part of this, basically summing it up, Democrats for men are pussies and Republicans
Democrats for men
are pussies. There are no masculine men in the Democrat Party right now.
No masculine men in the Democrat Party. That is pretty damn brutal. But, sometimes you got to show some tough love, right? We've got more here. This is Jim Ferguson. 9 hours ago, Trump's purge of Biden's DOJ loyalists swamped lawfare operatives fired immediately. Trump has fired Biden appointed U.S. attorneys effective immediately. Many of those prosecutors were deeply involved in the J6 witch hunts, targeting Trump's supporters and ignoring real crime. Some were reportedly given just 48 hours to justify why their staff should remain, but the writing's on the wall. The lawfare regime is done. The DOJ is being purged, and this is only the beginning. So what does it mean? The corrupt prosecutors who weaponize the justice system against conservatives are out. Trump is reshaping the DOJ, making way for prosecutors who actually uphold the law, not political persecution. This is exactly what I just said. Expect major shifts ahead. Accountability is coming for those who thought they were untouchable. The swamp is being drained and the lawfare games are over. Trump is taking back control. Oh yeah, baby, let's keep going. We've got more celebrations today on day 25 of President Trump in the White House. Oh, of course, we have a clip from Scott Jennings over there on CNN, the lone voice of sanity, going into the lion's den every night. Why would I respect the AP? Oh, what's that? I think I hear, was that Marine One? Yeah, I'm like a block away from the White House, and Marine One would be taking off right outside that window. That certainly sounds potentially like Marine One. Okay, anyway, let's go to the CNN clip with Scott Jennings.
Why do you think the AP won't just call it the Gulf of America? I mean, the president does rename things. We rename what's the mountain, Denali, Mount McKinley.
Let me read their explanation for why they are not doing it. Essentially, they are saying that the Trump's order only carries authority within the United States. Mexico, as well as other countries and international bodies, do not have to recognize that name change. The Gulf of Mexico has carried that name for 400 years. As was said at the table, and the Associated Press is going to refer to it by its original name, while acknowledging that Trump has a new name that he would like to call it. They are an international organization. No one except Trump with a pen has said that it's the Gulf of America. It's a body of water that also has borders with another country, and it's been named that for 400 years.
I know, but we have a lawful process in this country for changing the name of it. The president went through it with the Secretary of the Interior, by the way. I mean, it feels a little different.
Can I just answer your Denali question? The Denali thing is actually different because that's a place that's in the United States proper. It exists in.
But we changed the name of it. The point is we changed the name.
We have the ability to change the name. It's Mount McKinley. It's Mount McKinley.
But we also have the ability to change this body of water. I think, look, this smacks to me of a news organization looking for a way to pick a fight with Donald Trump over something that they don't need to pick a fight over.
Exactly.
B, he is the president, and there is a lawful process that he did follow to do it.
The news organization why won't they just pick a fight with Donald Trump over this? Donald Trump picked a fight with the news organization.
No, they're not calling it by the name.
He didn't pick a fight. Like Jennings is saying, he went through a lawful process, but the AP is ignoring the law, and that's why they were barred from the pool reporting in the Oval Office the other day and had a big temper tantrum.
No, the news organization can do whatever they want. If they want to call it the Gulf of South America, they can call it that.
But why would I respect a news organization that doesn't deal in reality?
You don't have to.
If to not call it what
they can call it whatever they want because there's free speech in this country. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, but that, in my opinion, if you're not willing to call something by the proper name based on the laws of the United States, that calls into question your judgment. And are you a news organization?
By the way,
or are
there are no laws in play here. It's an executive order, and the body of water is not named by the United States. It's named by global organizations that name global landmarks. It's not.
So what global organizations were around 400 years ago that made that determination, right? Okay, big flaw right there.
You don't respect Donald Trump's executive order or the Secretary of the Interior's process on this either.
Donald Trump had an executive order, but the Associated Press is not bound by it.
Scott, what if
the Associated Press isn't bound by the order? Okay, just ignore reality then. It's right in front of you. Then we'll just completely ignore you guys, and you'll get kicked out of the press room. Okay, what else have we got here? We got the fired attorneys. We've also got more. Let's continue with our second part of this segment. We have the press conference. Now, this was when Modi was there. Also in the executive signing session that was at 1 o'clock today. I was just getting ready to go into the White House. I was there at 2 o'clock. This was all happening as we were getting ready to go. President Trump talking about leveling the playing field today.
It'll come down rapidly. The United States, which a lot of countries do, including our allies. Our allies, in many cases, are worse than our enemies in this, having to do with trade. And has been going along. That's why we have a $36 trillion amount of money that we owe. We owe $36 trillion, but that'll come down rapidly. Likewise, provisions will be made for non-monetary tariffs, and a non-monetary, that's where they charge and they do things that aren't, there's no dollar amount, but they make it impossible for you to do business. They do tests on cars, like dropping a bowling ball on the hood of a car, and if the hood doesn't withstand it, which no hood would except for an army tank, then they say, I'm sorry, you can't sell your car into a certain country. That's a non-monetary tariff. So this is in order to take economic advantage. Likewise, the provisions for the non-monetary tariffs and trade barriers, that some countries charge. And most countries, many countries have something to that effect in order to keep our product out of their domain, or if they do not even let the U.S. businesses operate. So in some countries, they just won't let us even operate there. They charge us a lot, but they won't even let us go in. And then we have many of them. And what our Secretary of Commerce, standing right behind me, Howard Lutnick, what he's going to be doing is he's going to come up with a number that's an equivalent number to that. But in many countries, not too many, but quite a few, they don't let us do business. They effectively don't let us do business. So we're going to put a number on that that is a fair number. We're able to accurately determine the cost of these non-monetary trade barriers, and we'll be able to do that very accurately. Right? It's fair to all. No other country can complain. And in some cases, if a country feels that the United States would be getting too high a tariff, all they have to do is reduce or terminate their tariff against us, in which case we're going to pay the same thing. There is no tariff. So if they have a tariff and then they complain that this is too high, all they have to do is reduce their tariff or not charge it. I think there'll be certain countries, it's already happened. I believe I heard that the EU today or yesterday lowered the tariff on their cars to 2.5% because that's what we charge. And they lowered it from 10%, but it was really much higher than 10%. But 10% to 2.5, that's already happened. That's a big win.
It's already beginning, folks. It is already beginning. We got this 6 hours ago. President Trump, a reporter asking, there's been some nervousness on Wall Street about tariffs. Well, here is the president's response to that today.
I want to have a
on Wall Street about these tariffs. So there's been some nervousness on Wall Street about the impact.
So. I mean, there hasn't been very much, and I think it's going to make the United States stronger, and in many ways, it could make other countries stronger too.
You know? I love how they asked the question. There's been some nervousness on Wall Street. Who's nervous? Can you tell me who's nervous? Who's the affected party here? Right? What's your source?
Other countries want to have a strong United States. They want to have a strong America. And I think it's going to make us very, very strong, much stronger.
We are going to be much stronger. And here is President Trump to Caitlin Collins, who I saw today. This should have been done by Biden years ago.
Nobody wants you to see. And this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his?
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility. Okay, who else? Yes, please. And this should have been done by Biden.
Totally roasting her. Okay, so for context, so this happened before I got to the press office today. So she was actually storming around the press room. I mean, she was just like, like you could just see like the aggression as she walked through the press room, because President Trump just roasts CNN every single day, but she thinks she rules the roost. Well, guess what? There's a new sheriff in town. Okay, we've got more from today's press conference inside the Oval Office, talking about businesses wanting to make products in the United States again.
U.S. Steel is.
Have we talked to any CEOs since the tariffs were announced on steel and aluminum? What's the feedback from those?
They are in love with it. As you know, in Pennsylvania, U.S. Steel is through the roof. They're all through the roof. That's why I didn't want U.S. Steel to make a deal with Japan or anybody else. I think it's going to do great. But I think maybe more than anybody else, the steel companies and aluminum companies, they're in love with what's happened. And this will eventually be the car companies and chip companies. We have to have chips made in this country. Right now, everything's made in Taiwan practically, almost all of it, a little bit in South Korea. But everything, almost all of it is made in Taiwan. And we want it to be made. We want those companies to come to our country, in all due respect. They took the business away. Taiwan took our chip business away. We had Intel, we had these great companies that did so well, and it was taken from us. And we want that business back. We want it back in the United States. And if they don't bring it back, we're not going to be very happy.
And you mentioned pharmaceuticals as well in China. That's national security to bring that back.
Yeah, China and other places. We want to get the pharmaceutical and drug business back into the United States, where it should be.
Have we talked to any CEOs since the tariffs were?
We have more from the Oval Office earlier today, talking about the reciprocal trade and its effect on jobs.
I mean, not necessarily, but I'll tell you what will go up is jobs. The jobs will go up tremendously. We're going to have great jobs for everybody. This is something that should have been done many years ago. China did it. I mean, China did it at a level that probably nobody's ever seen before. If you manufactured a car, you couldn't send it into China. The tariff was so high. So everybody went and they built in China. It was no big secret. So we're going to see, but it's going to mean tremendous amounts of jobs. And ultimately, prices will stay the same, go down. But we're going to have a very dynamic country. I mean, not necessarily.
Very dynamic country, more jobs in play, and the farmers are going to be helped by this very much, says the president.
Dumped into our, and I think the farmers are going to be helped by this very much because product is being dumped into our country and our farmers are getting hurt very badly by the last administration. The last administration hated our farmers, like at a level that I've never seen before. I think our farmers are going to be helped. Jobs are going to be helped, but our farmers are going to be helped. Our manufacturers are going to be helped. And again, if somebody wants to come in, including the car companies, if they want to come in and build car plants, they'll do it without tariffs, and therefore prices won't go up. There could be some short-term disturbance, but long-term, it's gonna make our country a fortune.
It's going to make our country a fortune. Are you ready for it? And I certainly am. Are they ready for me, though, right? Okay, we've got more. This is the moment I wanted you guys to see. This really is important for me. You guys watch this.
Next News Network. All right, that's a wrap. Gary Franchi, Next News Network at the White House. Here it is, folks. Full access, hard pass acquired. Yes, we have just leveled up the game here at the Next News Network. How amazing. After 20 years, look at there's Media Row. I mean, everything's happening right here in real time. This is President Trump has opened up this White House to the people, and we're here for it for you. You guys send us here. Your dedication, your blessings, your gifts, everything has brought us to this moment. I mean, I always dreamed of being here, having an opportunity to report from here, even just the day's events. And after today, just getting our bearings and learning the ins and outs of being at the White House, learning about the rooms and everything. It's been a really surreal experience. Right behind me, this is where you see the media doing all of their reporting every single day, right here. And then this is the shot. And it's the report. And now we're part of it. Donald Trump has changed the game in the media. He's changed the game in America. And it's only going to get better. This is what, day 29? How amazing, folks. Wow. Just absolutely amazing. So, hard pass acquired, White House access granted, new America on the horizon, making it better, making it greater. Donald Trump is making the news great again.
Yes, he is, my friends, making the news great again. So let's take a look at what's happening here. We have 93 federal prosecutors, all appointed by Biden and all fired in a single day. The same day, Trump announces reciprocal tariffs that have our trading partners scrambling. The same day, we learn about billions in government waste. Well, the mainstream media wants you to believe these events aren't connected. They want you to think it's just routine political housekeeping, but ask yourself this. When was the last time you saw this level of coordinated action? When was the last time anyone had the courage to take on the deep state, the global trade cartels, and the bureaucratic swamp all at once? And here's the real question. Is Trump's DOJ purge just the beginning of something much bigger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And are you ready to join the revolution? Well, you can just by tapping the link in the description to get your exclusive Next News gear at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Show the world where you stand.